and welcome to another episode of Cycling Culture Club Connections. Today we sit down with Sherry Cardona, an ultra-distance racer, probably best known for her feats in races like the Transcontinental, where she and her partner won the pairs race a few years ago, but also across Europe, where she's been tackling massive ultra-distance races for the past few years. She's a super bubbly and inspiring individual. I really enjoyed this conversation with her. Rather embarrassingly, it took me this long to get this podcast edited and out. We actually recorded this back in March. So if any of the timelines and the conversation arcs feel a bit outdated, it's probably because they are. Apologies again to Sherry. In no way is this a reflection of the quality of her company or this podcast. So yeah, forgive me. But without further ado, we'll jump straight in. Hope you enjoy. Sherry, hello.
Hey, thank you.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Good to see you too. Really excited.
Yeah, good. So we were just talking offline, weren't we? But we've never actually met in person, and we hope to at some point throughout the year. But I guess to give the listeners a bit of an introduction, this is a podcast where we explore cycling stories, but particularly cycling stories from people from underrepresented groups, whether that's race related, gender related, sexuality, whatever it might be. We're looking to tell stories that potentially other media houses wouldn't. So it's a real pleasure to have you on today. Thank you for making the time. For those that don't know you, Sherry, give us an introduction. Where did you come into cycling? What do you do now? And what do you love about it?
Yeah, so I got into cycling roughly 4 years ago when I moved to the Netherlands from the UK. It was the pandemic and there was not much to do. So I just grabbed a bike and then started doing some of the long distance cycling routes here. And then there was an ultra race and I was like, it's similar, so let's do it. And then I got hooked. Like, I really like the ultra distance races and I started doing more and I really got into cycling. I'm from Colombia, so it was a good way to explore a new country and I just love it. I just love the adventure.
Yeah, adventures feels like a good word to describe the sort of riding that you do. So I guess I come from a world where my longest ride is probably 100 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you tell the audience about your longest ride?
Yeah, I think for me, short ride is 160 to 100 kilometers. I feel more comfortable after 1,000 k. I think that's when I start really enjoying it, disconnecting.
Yeah, that's interesting. Disconnecting. So part of the enjoyment for you is actually separating yourself from day-to-day life, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. It's like meditation. I find it's such a simple sport. It's just like cycle, eat, repeat, and you forget everything. You just immerse in the landscape, cycling, and it's really peaceful. I think it's really nice to just be able to immerse yourself in your thoughts. Our daily lives are so busy that sometimes it can be very stressful. And when you are out there, it's like, okay, I can finally disconnect and you feel closer to nature, also closer to your body, your instincts. Is like you come back to the basic and the problems from real life seem small.
Yeah, wow. I mean, if that isn't a sales pitch for ultra distance riding, I don't know what is.
Yeah, indeed.
Did you get started? So you picked up a bike 4 years ago. Did you go straight into ultra distance or did you ease your way in? What was your first event?
Yeah, so I picked up the bike from my husband, like 2 sizes bigger, and then we started cycling together. And I was like, oh, I can do like long rides, 100k. And then because it was COVID, there was these long distance cycling routes here, and you can go all around the Netherlands. So we decided to go in to a small bikepacking trip of a few days, and we actually cycled quite fast and got the record there, and we even got a certificate. And we were like, hey, we can do this fast. And then there was a race called Race Around the Netherlands, 2,000 kilometers. That was nearly exactly the course of the bikepacking trip we did. So then we decided to sign up, and we did quite well and we enjoyed it. So after, I think a month after, my husband came back from work and I was like, I already signed us up to another race in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And he was like, did you check anything? I was like, no, but the pictures look amazing. He's like, look at these waterfalls, these gorges. He was like, do you know that there's some climbing there? It's not like 2,000 kilometers in the Netherlands. I was like, oh, I didn't think about it. But it was one of the best experiences, I think, because also I didn't know anything about Bosnia and Herzegovina. When I mountain. I went there, I was blown away, like how beautiful it was, how nice was the people. So it was kind of an adventure. It was like, whoa, let's see what's gonna happen.
That's a good point. Exploring new places. I mean, I don't think I know anything about Bosnia and Herzegovina, really,
Hmm.
apart from, the odd travel show I might have watched. I mean, tell us a bit about that event. I mean, it's very, very different from the race around the Netherlands. I'd imagine there's significantly more climbing, as you mentioned. How did you
Hmm.
guys get on?
Yeah, so it was quite challenging at the beginning. It was also the first time we did like pairs racing, so we had to learn a lot, and we didn't know how was Bosnia and Herzegovina, so we brought the whole house, like even a tire, a spare tire on the bags and everything. We thought it would be like super rough terrain and everything, and it ended up being really nice, and also a lot of infrastructure. So we thought there wouldn't be anything, and then there were like gas stations every like 10 kilometers and everything, like super nice. And what I really like is like people were so nice and welcoming, and you learn about a new culture. I like that from self-supported races, because sometimes you go to, let's say, an event and you just stay in the event bubble, and you are not forced to understand the culture, to interact with the locals. But when you go on a long self-supported event, then you have to resupply, understand, okay, talk with the locals, what's the local food, where can I find that, how is the road there. So you start to understand the culture and to meet the local people. So it's very, I think, enriching. Yeah, you learn so much about different cultures, even compared to going somewhere as a tourist, where you again are in your tourist bubble. And when you go to remote places, you see, interact with the people in the small villages. So it's like, okay, finally I get to see the real country.
Yeah, the real country. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess I've become quite a bit more aware of that concept in recent years, where you travel to another country and, as you say, you sit in a bubble. You don't get to see the real side of wherever you are. And I think I've started to realize how bad particularly British people are at that. I'm sure there are other cultures who are bad at it as well, so not just hitting on the British, but
Yeah.
it feels like, people have a habit of sitting on the periphery of what a country is all about rather than diving in. And yeah, ultra distance and self-supported racing, I mean, you have no choice, right? you
Yeah.
have you have to survive. So our natural instincts is to survive, is obviously to connect with others. So I think it's really powerful. Do you think that's what kept you coming back to ultra distance all these years later?
Yeah, I think is the adventure. I always like traveling, but I always seek adventure. So I was really into backpacking. So I like when, you have to, it's challenging,
Mm.
out of your comfort zone. And by bike is like, I used to do also a lot of ultra running, and I connected to nature, but cycling, you can do it forever, really. And you can go really long distances and travel by bike. So when you travel by bike, it's also quite rewarding, and the ultra races take you out of your comfort zone. And there's something, I think, addictive or about pushing your limits. When you overcome your fears and you have this satisfaction, it's like wow. And on top, you get to see amazing places that nobody goes, and meet all these amazing people. It's like wow. I mean, it's everything I want to do. Yeah, I also really like bikepacking, because sometimes in the races you just rush through, and sometimes I'm in such amazing places that I just want to, take my time or have a coffee at that cafe, or really have time to enjoy my omelette. And sometimes you just have to rush by. So
Mm. Sometimes it's good to just slow
yeah.
down a bit.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
Speaking of pushing yourself beyond your limits, when I was doing some digging ahead of speaking to you, I see that you've just come back from the Atlas Mountain Race.
Hmm.
I'd love to hear about your experience there. But before we dive into your experience, for those of the listeners who maybe don't know what Atlas Mountain Race is, could you maybe give them a quick introduction?
Yeah, so I think is one of the toughest ultra races out there. Is off road, so it's 1,300 kilometers in Morocco. You start in Marrakech, and then you make your way through the Atlas Mountains, the Anti-Atlas, and you finish by the seaside in a town called Eusoria, something like this. Sorry for my pronunciation. And yeah, it's self-supported, and yeah, it's quite rough terrain. So most people choose to do it with a mountain bike, and quite remote areas.
I see you did it on a gravel bike.
It was a drop bar mountain bike.
Oh,
I
okay.
took a hardtail, and then I just put a drop bar there.
Yeah, I see, with some clip-on aero bars as well.
Exactly.
Nice. How did you get on? How did you find it?
I think a lot of people told me, oh, drove bar versus flat bar and everything, but I think they come from mountain biking and they have the experience. So for them might be easier because they can tackle the rough terrain faster, but I will never bomb down a descent because I never learned descending because I learned cycling in the Netherlands. So for me, I prefer a setup that is closer to my gravel bike because it's what I can practice in the Netherlands. And yeah, I might be slower on the descents, but it's not because the handling is because of the fear, because I never practice descending. When you learn cycling as an adult is different than when you learn cycling as a child. Then you have the fears already established in your mind, and it's really difficult to overcome that. So even if I had a flat bar, I wouldn't be able to descend that kind of descent. So I rather take back time in the flats. And then I was with my drop bars, like on my aero bars, I felt like flying. And the last kilometers, it was headwind and tarmac. And I was like, oh, I know that. It's like in the Netherlands. So I just like went full gas.
Yeah, you find some familiar, even though you're thousands of miles from home. That's,
Exactly.
I mean, that's the beauty of cycling. You can always find something that you could recognize, no matter where you are and no matter how simple. But I've
Yeah.
had a few friends do Atlas Mountain before, and I've heard like how challenging it really is. Like, tell us about your race this year. Is this the first time you've done it, or was it second?
Yeah, the
First.
first one. Yeah, I actually underestimated it. I thought it was like, oh, maybe it's a bit more rough than, for example, a gravel race like Badlands and a bit longer. So I was like, it's like a long Badlands. It's like, no, definitely not. You had a lot of like trails, very rocky trails, steep descents. It was all the time up or down. So you were climbing. There were not many flat stretches, to be honest. And it's very challenging there because it's not like in Europe that we have all this infrastructure. There you have like, okay, a village after 100 kilometers. So, and they don't have, for example, all the resupplies you can find in a gas station here. They have maybe omelette and cookies. So then getting the energy you need is more challenging, and all the resupplies and the terrain. So I definitely underestimated also how slow you go. You say, okay, there's a gas station in 40K, but this 40K might take you 5 hours or something like that, because there were a lot of donkey trails that you had to sometimes walk. So I was like, okay. After the first, I think, the first 170K, I was like, okay, I just try to enjoy my time and survive. That was my goal,
Survive.
just to finish the race. At the beginning, I was like, oh, maybe let's see what I can do. But after that, I realized without the mountain biking skills there, it makes a huge difference. I will sometimes put a lot of effort to overtake people on the climb, and then they will fly by on the descents. I was like, okay, that's not sustainable. So I really, but my objective was to really, what I said, I went to Morocco as a tourist, and I just stay, the typical things. You just stay in a nice hotel and you don't leave. You go to restaurant and that's it. And then I saw the pictures of the Atlas Mountain Race. I was like, wow, I didn't see any of that. It's so beautiful. It's like, why? And then I was like, okay, I have to sign up for it. And I must say, it's the most beautiful place I've ridden my bike. It's like, wow, it's insane. You are just like for hours and hours alone in nature and in these kind of lunar landscapes. It feels like you are riding in another planet. It's just like amazing. If somebody is thinking about visiting Morocco, I totally recommend it. But I will say off road. Yeah, don't go on roads.
Okay, that's good to know. I don't think many people would think of Morocco as a typical cycling destination. If I'm honest, I think it's probably underrepresented.
I think
Um,
so.
but it's
Now
probably a
there's
good
more
thing.
races.
Yeah,
Now there's more races. You have also the Sahara gravel race. I think now a part of the graveler series and more gravel events, and it's really like getting trendy now. And I
mm,
understand. I mean, the people are really nice, the food is amazing, and the landscapes are just like top.
yeah. People are getting sick of Spain and trying to find something different. What's the next
Hmm.
thing? Do you think
Yeah.
you'll be back? You're gonna go and do it again?
I think I enjoyed the event, but I wanted to finish it because I was like, I don't want to do this again, because the course was really nice and was such a nice adventure. I wouldn't have gone there otherwise, but it was really rough. And sometimes I thought, okay, you can take a similar nice course, but don't destroy your whole body and bike on the process. So I was like, okay, it's nice as a challenge. I want to finish it, like when I'm old I can say, oh, I finished this top race for myself. But I think I would like to go to Morocco, but by packing, because I felt like, again, the landscapes were so beautiful. And I was like, wow, I don't want to rush. Or the thing that I didn't know about is that in Morocco in February, the nights are very long. So you spend, there are like 12 hours of darkness. So you spend half of the race riding in the night. And we were in such a beautiful places. I saw the pictures of people that went there during the day, and I was like, oh, I didn't see any of that. I didn't see a camel. I didn't see a flying goat or anything, because I was just rushing by. So I was like, oh, I wish I could just stop and really see the landscape. So I want to go there bikepacking. There is a route, caravans route, that seems really nice. So I will definitely go back, but bikepacking and camping and really taking my time to enjoy.
Yeah, I think you've established pretty well that actually picking your way slowly through a landscape is what's so special about being on the bike. If you're going to go quickly, you might as well be in a car or a truck or something.
Yeah, exactly.
No, cool. I think it's nice for people like me to live vicariously through you, because that is not a race I'm ever going to do. Just never going to do it. I don't know if it's a lack of interest, but I just don't think I'd survive. I think I would die out there.
To be honest, I felt sometimes I rode some steep descents with loose rocks in the night, and you can fall off a cliff. Like, I was like, oh my god, all the time. To be honest, it was a really nice event, and I loved it. But I wouldn't go twice. I would go back bikepacking, but maybe another of the mountain races. I would like to do it just for the experience. It pushes you to go to places you wouldn't go otherwise.
Yeah. What's the other one? Is it the Silk Road Mountain Race?
Yeah. So actually, after I finished Atlas, I said, I'm never gonna do a mountain bike ultra or a mountain race ever again. And then the week after, I was like, maybe one day, maybe if I really prepare and I go to a place where I can practice this with the mountain bike. So I think, yeah, I might do it one day, but I will need like really to take it serious, like do proper preparation in another country where I can find like steep descents, because I felt like I was learning how to mountain bike as the race progressed. When I started, I was walking most of the descents. Like even people, other rider passed by and they knew me and they were like, Sherry, try to descend it. You can do it. And I was like, no, I'm too scared. And as the race progressed, I was like, well, I cannot walk 1,300 kilometers. You know, at some point I have to ride. So I started even looking, there's no cliff. I closed my eyes. I stopped touching the brakes and I was like, 1, 2, 3. And then I opened my eyes when I was down the descent. I was like, oh, I survived. Okay, just let the bike roll. So I started learning as I went. I think the good thing of these extreme situations is like pushes you to overcome your fears. In a bikepacking trip, I would never have done that. And there is like, okay, I have to get out of here. So I have to ride it at some point.
You, by necessity, you pushed yourself through.
Yeah.
I think I ought to probably say I wouldn't recommend to anyone listening to close your eyes going down a descent.
That's true.
You somehow got away with it, but probably not advised.
Yeah. That's not advisable.
You mentioned pairs racing earlier, and you race with your husband, right?
No, this one was like we started solo and then we decided, okay, we were going to scratch, and then we decided to bikepack the rest of the route, so outside the general classification, because we were about to scratch. I had some health issues and then he had some health issues, and we bumped into each other at checkpoint 3 and we're like, well, I already like, okay, I'm going to drop out because I want to take a spa day. So I was planning to take a day in the checkpoint just to recover, because I was coughing blood from the dust. I didn't expect it that. I mean, I still coughing like a few weeks after. And then he was there because he had severe stomach issues. So yeah, then we bumped into each other and we were like, well, we are not competing anymore, so we'd rather finish the race. And also, I don't know, it was how we felt in the moment.
Yeah. Sounds like the right thing to do. But I mean, what an amazing thing to do with your significant other. I mean, that's incredible. Like, me and my wife might go walking in the park, but to go and do a race like that is crazy. And to just, oh, there's my husband, just
Yeah.
bump into him.
Yeah, he was actually really suffering, but he decided to continue because he knew if we bump into each other and he scratched, I couldn't continue. I will feel so bad for him, and I couldn't abandon him. I love him. I'm not gonna abandon him knowing he's suffering to continue the race to be third woman or something. It's like, no, I wouldn't feel like this. It was more rewarding to know that we both managed to finish it, because if your significant other is doing the race and they scratch, you always feel bad if you finish. We had that situation once that he scratched, and I just felt horrible because I finished the race and I felt guilty. I was like, oh, like there's always this feeling of guilt, like, oh, I finished it and he couldn't. And there I was so happy. He really, it's funny how he wouldn't push it. He would have scratched, but just to make me happy to finish the race, he pushed himself, and I was like, he was really suffering. Yeah, stomach issues in Morocco are not fun. You really have to be careful with what you eat over there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess dehydration becomes a real issue if you get ill that way. And yeah, that can be a slippery slope to bad things if you're not
And
careful.
food poisoning. Yeah.
Yeah, nasty. Well, I hope you're both a little bit better now.
Yeah.
Good.
That's something people don't tell you about ultra races. It's not only the physical challenge during the race, but also after. My hands still numb, my skin is still peeling off and coughing. So it really takes some time to recover after those events. It's really, really takes a toll on your body and also on your performance. It's like your FTP and everything. Like takes a while to rebuild.
Do you have a day-to-day job? Do you work a job?
Yeah, I work in marketing as a freelancer, so I work from home, so it's a bit more flexible. And
Okay.
then, of course, the YouTube and ultra cycling.
Yeah. So you have to get back behind a desk and find some normality after riding 1,000 kilometers.
Yeah, and sometimes we go fast because we have to go back to work. It's like, okay, we wish we could go slower sometimes, but it was like Transcontinental Race. And my husband was like, oh, we kind of have to finish in 10 days because we have to be back to work the day after. So it's like, okay, our flight is like tight. Okay, let's push it. So sometimes you have no other option. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so if anything's going to motivate you, it's needed to get back to work. No,
Yeah.
that's cool. So I think just talking about cycling more generally, I guess my impression of that scene is that it is typically underrepresented by a number of different categories, certainly,
Mm-hmm.
but also from an ethnicity perspective. I know I've spoken to other contributors who have said that the ultra scene is quite, white as
Mm-hmm.
well, so white and male. What's been your experience of that? Is that true, or is it better on the ground?
Yeah, it's yeah, for sure. Like the number of women is not as significant as the number of men in the races. So it was the first. It's the only time I don't have to queue for the toilet. It's like, okay, in the registration. Most of the people signing up for the events are from Europe, some from the US, but I don't find that much diversity. But I must say, like a lot of the races are taking initiatives to bring more women into the sport. So they allocate, for example, Transcontinental more spots to women to try to increase it and do webinars where other women talk about their experience, because I find, yeah, we might face different challenges than men, for example. Maybe not due to the country and everything, but sometimes you have to face different circumstances. And when you are aware about it, then it makes you feel more confident. There's a lot of fears I had when I started doing ultra cycling, that I was like, oh, I feel I'm the only one that has these concerns. And then I started to speak with more women, and they were like, yes, but maybe I take some precautions or I do this. So I was like, okay, things might happen to everybody, but sometimes if you are more aware of it, you can do something instead of being surprised by it and then panicking. Or so I think information is power, and doing these webinars or talks with more women encourage more women to sign up for these events.
It's good. It's good. If you were to give some advice to other women who might be listening about getting into ultra cycling, is there anything that really comes to mind as like, you must do this, or this is a great resource, or anything like that?
Yeah, so for example, a lot of the races are now offering talks. So maybe go to one of these talk like they do talks online or maybe in a cafe or something, so and ask the questions that you have. And for example, if you are afraid to do it alone, maybe you can start as a pair and then do it, and then you get used to how it works and everything, and more confident, and then you can do it by yourself. This is something that for example limits you to do it, to sign up to an event like this.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, that's really useful. And what about, there's probably events that are doing it well or maybe better than others, but what do you think organizers can do better to make it easier for women and other minority groups to come into ultra distance racing?
Yeah, I think, for example, the Transcontinental Race, they offer like scholarships. That's really
Okay.
nice. So they offer you like, they support you with your race entry and materials. They might give you some bikepacking bags, because sometimes, like, when you live in a country where, you don't have, the wages are not as high and the income, and it can be very expensive to sign up for these races. I feel like getting sometimes quite unaffordable, like even like for normal, for if you work, is still like quite a significant investment. So for example, to help people that have more limited resources, they can do that, and it really helps to increase the diversity. And I think that's a really good initiative. And what I said, talks, like for example, okay, like that's the how you can do things, maybe helping people, like a discount, or make it more affordable and accessible for everybody.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is true across not just ultra but other events as
Hmm.
well. Like I signed up to the Rift in Iceland this year just because it was a bucket list race that I've always wanted to do. But yeah, the cost of entry alone is a lot of money.
Yeah,
And I couldn't help, as I was putting my card details in, I couldn't help but think how tricky that this would make it for lots of different people to come and experience something like this. Now, of course, I suppose I should caveat by saying you can go and ride wherever you want outside of an event for free,
hmm,
for free.
yeah,
But the event experience brings so much to that experience, both in terms of security and camaraderie with your fellow riders,
yeah.
amongst lots of other things. So
It's a
yeah,
different experience. Yeah, yeah, I
so
think it's nice.
yeah, so yeah, I think I can see why that we do need to do more as an industry, and the race organizers, who admittedly are very stretched already in terms of resources and cash and all those other things. We need to try and do more to encourage those underrepresented groups to come and try it, because all those wonderful things you spoke about earlier, escapism and freedom and exploring the landscape and all those wonderful things, some they currently feel inaccessible to a whole group of people. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we'll
And
hopefully
for
see that change.
example, they can do something like organizing events in the countries. For example, what the Amani team is doing, like bringing, they organize events in Kenya, and then international riders come, and the local riders can compete against international riders that they wouldn't have the chance to go, for example, to do Unbound and test themselves against the international field. And when you organize an event in that country, it's more accessible to them, and also bring cycling into a community. For example, in Colombia, like now there's ultra race, there's more off-road, so people are more aware of it and they are more embracing it. I see a lot of people now on bikes thanks to these events, and also helps, I think, for conservation. Like there's a lot of, oh, why we would destroy this if it's like where we go riding. So when you are more in touch with nature, it's also good for the communities itself, because they might invest in more initiatives to create new paths, infrastructure. So I think it has a very positive impact. For example, the Atlas Mountain Race is great because it brings tourists to very remote areas that are a bit poor, and so, and for them is the event of the year. So they, even the local shops, they organize like a local stands in the middle of nowhere, and then they have little treats there, and they were like, oh, how many riders are coming? They were quite excited. So it's also really good. You have a positive impact to the local communities. And then, for example, in Badlands also, there's a lot of tourists now going not only for the event to these remote areas of Spain that are dying because the population are moving away to the cities. And if you can revive these small villages by bringing tourism and creating a positive impact is invaluable.
Yeah. I hadn't even really considered it. Having never done one, I suppose some naivety over, what it really looks like. But I have seen firsthand what Team Armani have been doing in Kenya with migration gravel and seeing that grow over the years and imagining what that could do for the local economy and for cycling in general in Africa is really inspiring. And in fact, I must get Michael on this podcast to tell his story, because every time he does tell me, I just feel like I want to just go and make a difference somewhere because it's so inspiring. So yeah, thank you for reminding that. I must send him a message. I don't think we really have time to go through your long list of amazing events that you've done, but a few that I know of. I know you've done Transcontinental on a couple of occasions. If I'm not mistaken, you did pretty well at, is it Bohemian Border Bash as well?
Yeah, that was my first gravel off-road event.
Okay. Any others? Any standout events that come to mind that you think really fondly of that you've taken part in?
I think Transiberica, yeah, that was my first routed event as a pair, and such a long distance, so it was quite challenging, but also rewarding. I don't know, sometimes the most challenging experiences are the most rewarding ones, and the ones you remember.
Yeah, totally. And does it feel different to you riding through Spain than it does through other countries just because of the language similarity?
Yeah, exactly. And also, you know how things works and is familiar. For example, in Transcontinental, the first part is easy because you are familiar with the countries, Germany, Switzerland, Italy. But once you enter to the Balkans, everything is completely different. And we also sometimes forget how lucky we are to have been able to freely move in the European Union. Once you get there, it's like, okay, you have to rush from one border control to another one and understand a bit of geopolitics, how everything works. So it's very interesting, but it's also quite stressful. It's like we were always racing from one border crossing to another. It's like, okay, we managed to pass this one, like onto the next one. So it's a very interesting experience. You see how the continent changes, and also, how lucky we are.
You mentioned geopolitics. That's just not something that I liken to cycling all that much. But interestingly, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday about how professional racing is very intrinsically tied to geopolitics, particularly in France. And now you mention it about ultra racing, I think there is this side by side parallel between geopolitics and cycling, particularly as it crosses borders or entire countries, which is it's fascinating and a topic that requires a very deep dive rabbit hole scenario, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I feel it teach you cycling so much about life itself. I don't know. It's not only a sport for me. It's like brought so much new experiences and knowledge to my life that I even apply in my normal life. It's like, wow, you learn so many things just by riding your bike.
Yeah, totally. I mean, usually at the end of this podcast, I ask our guests to give a bit of advice to someone coming into cycling, but I think you've just given it, right? Like cycling is full of life lessons.
Indeed.
But you're always busy from what I can tell on social media. What's next for you? What events are you doing this year? Which would you love to tick off in the future?
Yeah, I'm doing soon Utrecht Ultra, which is here in the Netherlands. It's a nice local event. And then I just signed up for Bright Midnight in Norway. After all the darkness of Atlas, I said I want to do a race where the sun never goes down, or where at least I have more sunlight. And I always wanted to explore Norway. So I'm going there, and then I have Transiberica again, but this time I will do it solo because I want to feel the first time we did it more as an experience. And now I think it's a race that might suit me. So I would like to explore more the competitive side. I think it's a nice motivation to keep the training up during the winter. That's it. I think for this year, maybe I'm doing some other things like the Komoot Women's Rally in Montenegro. That's really something I would like to do. And in the future, I think my bucket list race is still like a Silk Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope to find the courage to go there. So yeah, that's definitely something I would like to do in the future, but I don't know when.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you've got a hell of a roadmap anyway. And I'm sure every year as this gets more popular, there'll be more events that you can go and tick off in far-flung places. And yeah, as I said earlier about living vicariously through you, not just you, but other ultra distance riders who are part of our community or even outside of it, you get to see such a wealth of places just through, social media and YouTube feeds, which is super exciting. I just want to touch on something you said there about the Komoot Women's Rally. It's something I've heard of. But it's not something I know a huge amount about. I don't know if they're a sponsor of yours, but it doesn't matter if they are. Do you want to just tell the audience a little bit about what the Women's Rally is and what it represents?
Yeah, it's like what it used to be the Torino Nice Rally.
Okay.
I think it was. So now they do it. They do one for women. It's Komoot bringing it, and you can sign up. I just sign up, and you enter the ballot, and you can get a spot to go there. And it's not a race; it's really like an event where women gather, and there's a route, and you create parts of the route, and you can ride alone with someone. It's not a race, and at the end you have like a nice party, and people share their experience, and it creates really a safe space for women maybe to get into adventure, because sometimes you want to do this but you don't want to start alone, as I said. So if you maybe don't have friends or somebody you can ride with, you can go to an event like this and then see for yourself what it's like to go bikepacking, and they provide you with a lot of information, webinars, and there's really a lot of support. I think there's a lot of beginners there also, so it's really nice for them to learn. And then it really makes a safe space to go on an adventure with other women. As I said, it's like sometimes my husband tells me, oh, you can do this, but I was like, okay, you've been racing bikes since you were a kid, but when I see another woman doing that, it's like, she did it, I can do it also. I feel more related and empowered by seeing the experience of other women doing these challenging things, and it makes me believe that, I can do it myself one day.
Yeah, good for you. I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Representation is so key. If you can see it, then you can be it. I know that's a cliche, but it's so relevant in cycling. Like if you can be inspired by somebody to do something exciting like that, then it can open up a lot of potential.
Yeah. And then also with my YouTube channel, that's what I wanted to do, because sometimes in some of the YouTube videos I saw, seemed like only ultra humans could do these ultra races, because it was more a hero story, but nobody showed the vulnerability, Yes, people also cry during these races, and sometimes I felt it's like, is nobody crying? Is nobody like running out of water? So I wanted to show the behind the scenes, and to show that even a beginner cyclist can do it. So you can do it too, because sometimes it felt like, only people that have been cycling forever, or people ultra humans or ultra gifted, because sometimes a lot of the videos tend to focus on the top end of the field.
Yeah.
So it seemed like people like you or like me cannot do it, like maybe are not professionals full time. And then it's nice to see people, it's like, somebody like me can do it. They also fall, they also don't know how to descend, they cry. So I think that's really, you can relate to that.
Yeah, I love that. I really hope the audience can take a bit of that energy away as well, and remember it's okay to be not at the front, and it's okay to show your emotions, and it's okay to be vulnerable, and that's part of the journey. And no, thank you, that's really good. I'm interested about your personal journey, not outside of cycling necessarily, but I know you're from Colombia, I know you live in the Netherlands. I'd love to just hear quickly, like, how did that come to be? How did you end up moving from South America to Europe, and why?
Yeah, so I moved from Colombia when I was 9 years old with my mom. My parents got divorced, so I moved to the Canary Islands and I grew up there. I stayed there until university. Then I moved after university to the UK for 2 years, and I met my husband there, and then we got relocated to the Netherlands. To be honest, I never thought I would live in the Netherlands, but that's the thing about life. You never know when you will end up. So it's quite interesting, because for me, I always found difficult to feel I belong to a place, because when I'm in Colombia, people ask me where I'm from, and when I'm in Spain, people ask me where I'm from, and when I'm here, it's the same. So I always feel a bit as an outsider. And in ultra cycling, I like it because everybody is very different, everybody from different backgrounds, different countries, and somehow there's something that connects the person, to another rider. You have similar experiences despite of your different backgrounds. So I feel like I feel included without having to change who I am. sometimes it feels like, oh, maybe I have to change who I am. It's like, no, I can be myself and still be part of this amazing community. So I think that's something I really love about the sport and the diversity of it.
That's great. You're full of wonderful sound bites this afternoon. It's going to make my edit job really easy. No, I love that. I think because it's really easy to feel like an outsider in a place. It's much less easy to find a community where you can feel included. And I think that's part of what we're trying to achieve with Cycling Culture Club. It's, how do we create something so inclusive that anyone can feel that they can find friends here?
Yeah.
And it's a work in progress, as you know. But I think there's I meet wonderful people every day, every week, with lots of great stories and lots of similarities. Everybody's struggled with something. Everyone has ambition in some way. So I think that's one of the real privileges of sitting where I sit at the moment is I get to absorb everyone's stories and experience their highs and their lows. And particularly sat here on the podcast, you get this real understanding of someone's journey.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
It's special. And I think the same is true for the community that you've grown. You've got a YouTube channel, and obviously you've built a life for yourself outside of the country where you were born. I suppose I'm interested as well, like, do you still identify as a Colombian, or does that change, or how do you feel about it?
Yeah, to be honest, growing up, I really struggled with that because I didn't know where I belong, to be honest, because as I said, I don't belong anywhere. So it's like, oh, sometimes like, okay, people treat me very different. I was like, sometimes embarrassed of myself. It's like, what do I do? I am so different. I also struggle to make friends because when I, for example, started school, I went there with my poncho and people were looking at me like, okay, what's going on there? And then I was very different everywhere I went. And I feel like people always try to put me in a box. And when they couldn't put me in a category or in a box, they struggle to interact with me because I was like, okay, where are you from? What is your vibe? I feel that sometimes I struggle to integrate because of that. So I think I feel Colombian in my root because I don't know, when I go there I really identify with the happiness of the people, the culture and everything. But there's so many things I struggle to understand because I didn't grow up there. So it's like, okay, I don't know why people do that, or I don't know much about my country. But yeah, as I grown older, I started going there more often. So I started to understand things, talk with people. So I think also thanks to cycling, I feel more connected with my country because we went cycling to a lot of areas I never went to. We spoke with the locals. I was, that's so cool. I didn't know anything about that. So we really I learned about my own culture thanks to cycling.
That's great. I mean, Colombia has such a rich connection with cycling, which I think obviously helps. And, my only knowledge of it really is watching the Colombians who visit the Tour and the other big races. And I took this good photo that at Strada Bianchi last year of a couple of Colombians sat with the Colombian flag draped over their shoulders.
Yeah.
And I found it again the other day. And I remember just the passion that they bring to the experience is probably second to none in terms of energy. Maybe only second to the Dutch on Dutch corner at Alpe d'Huez or something. But no, that's really important. And then I hear the cycling in Colombia is amazing. Have you done any ultras out there or any big events?
No, not really. There's one that they started Transcordilleras. I think it's the only ultra race there at the moment. You can also do it as a stage race, and it's really nice. I really see an impact there. Like now, people when I went to Colombia knew about it. It's like these crazy people that come in the trochas, the trails with gravel bikes, with the tiny tire bikes. It's like they should take a mountain bike. Yeah, they remember that because like I wouldn't use that type of bike there. But it's so funny sometimes when you are overtaken, you have your fancy bike and you are overtaken by a kid in like a really like heavy bike and everything. I love that about cycling, that is accessible. Some other sports is like you need to have the necessary equipment, etc. But the cycling as is also a mode of transport. Most of the Colombian cyclists, they it's not that they decided to do cycling, it's like it was their way to commute to school. And in Colombia, there's a lot of mountains in high altitude. You get pretty good at it if you commute every day to school at 2,000 meters. So I really like cycling because it's an accessible sport. Even you can do it with whatever bike you have around. It's something that is quite accessible, I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think there's a lot of narrative around that says that cycling is becoming less accessible. But I do think that is pointed towards the more expensive end of the sport, you know, the fancy road bike and mountain bike end of the sport. But I think if you really break it down and you think about what countries and what humanity has been using the bike for you know, hundreds of years now. Is it hundreds of years? I'm testing my history now. A long time.
Yeah.
Then you actually really simplify it. And you're like, actually, you can take any bike you want and ride to work or ride to school or ride to the shops to get milk, you know. It's
Yeah,
all,
exactly. I even seen a guy that did his own bike out of bamboo.
oh,
And he
wow.
was riding around Europe. I was like, really?
I mean,
It's
credit
like
to him.
incredible.
Amazing. Really amazing. Okay, I'm a bit astounded by some of the sound bites you've given me this afternoon. I'm really happy. It's been really good to chat and understand your history and your story. And I guess all that remains to say is I wish you great luck for the season to come. I hope your races go as planned.
Thanks.
I like to close this off, as I mentioned earlier, just by asking if you had any advice for somebody from an underrepresented group who was coming into cycling. If you had any advice to encourage them to stay in cycling, what would it be?
Don't let your fears stop you. Knowledge is power. So I think is that courage is not the lack of fear, but going forward despite of it. Don't let
Nice.
that stop you.
And on that banger, I think we can call it a close. Sherry, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to getting to the edit already. I hope you have a great weekend and good luck with the next races. Let
Thank
me
you
know how
so
it goes.
much.
Thanks, Sherry. Bye for now.
Thanks.